Do you know what this is? This is salt. And it's used everywhere, from seasoning your food
To de-icing the roads.
and even clouds for rain. But did you know that for centuries, salt was much more than that? It was a form of currency. In the 7th century, a group of settlers started harvesting salt from the sea.
Not for taste, but for gaining power through its trade.
Salt preserved meat. Salt preserved fish.
And it was even used as medicine as a disinfectant, so in all possible ways it preserved life.
Back then, salt couldn't be produced overnight. Salt production required proof of work. It was harvested through time, sun, sea, and extreme human effort.
There was no way to fake it, and that's what made it valuable. It was scarce and it was durable, and it was earned through real effort. In fact, the word salary comes from salarium, the salt payments once given to Roman soldiers. Salt was so valuable that governments even accepted it as tax from citizens, and controlling it became a matter of national security.
By the 10th century, Venice turned salt into a state monopoly. They didn't just produce it, they regulated and weaponized it. Controlling salt meant controlling food, trade routes, and their economy.
From the Mediterranean to the north of Europe, salt moved through Venice with rising profits. Venice became the capital of trade and commerce. As Venice entered the spice trade, it started to dominate Europe in all monetary policy. Venice became a dominant force in building ships and vessels. And essentially, these ships and vessels were moving money across the oceans, and all the European regions. The Venetian navy did this with unmatched precision. They brought safety to the trade routes, and from the Byzantine to Britain, trade was happening throughout all of Europe. So the city was controlled by merchants who were trading without any restrictions. They controlled trade, and the trade controlled everything. The merchants never care about your religion or your race, or the social status of the trading partners. That made Venice the original permissionless network.
Muslims, Christians, Jews, Mongols, everyone traded.
It was borderless, and it was open for everyone, and that's how Venice flourished for centuries.
Does that sound familiar?
The Venetian ducat contained 3.5 grams of gold, and it was trusted everywhere.
From Europe to the Mongol Empire, it was the go-to currency of all merchants.
For 500 years, trade and commerce was fueled by the Venetian ducat. It essentially became the reserve currency of the world.
It was here that the Venetian merchants came up with the early double-entry bookkeeping.
In this accounting system, every transaction was recorded twice, one as a debit and one as a credit.
This ensured that the books were always in balance.
This balance provided an accurate measure of assets, liabilities, and equity between the Venetian merchants and their trading partners.
The double entry of bookkeeping laid the foundation of modern accounting.
But as Venice grew in power, it also got hungrier.
Venetian politicians started to get involved in wars, and the Republic started to experiment with financial engineering.
This led to the creation of the prestiti, a financial debt instrument.
These were state bonds. Citizens loaned money to the government expecting repayment with interest payments. At first it worked, but soon everything changed.
The prestiti became permanent, and the government kept borrowing from their citizens, and they kept promising them a lot of social benefits.
They printed money to pay the interest, and then there was no accountability. The prestiti gave absolute control to the government, and this was the beginning of the end. As they printed, the ducat lost its value. Nobody trusted the ducat anymore. Venice collapsed after centuries of power. Bureaucracy eroded trade and innovation.
This monetary policy killed Venice, and history forgot why it rose in the first place.
Does this sound familiar? Always remember why Venice flourished.
Because the production of salt required work, something which cannot be printed endlessly. We are all losing trust in the very system that prints away our time and the value we produce. So, what is the solution? We need hard money, a system beyond politics or borders, one that runs on code, mathematics, and truth.
And all roads lead to one name:
Bitcoin. Something that is immune to political manipulation. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and nobody can change that. Every transaction is recorded on the Bitcoin public ledger. The public ledger is backed by a decentralized network of encrypted energy around the world. The problem with the double entry bookkeeping system was that it relied on trust that the banks or the merchants recorded the transactions honestly. Bitcoin changed that by becoming the first real example of a triple entry bookkeeping accounting system. In this system, the transaction is not only recorded by the two parties involved, but also locked into an immutable public ledger that is visible and accessible to everybody. This means that everyone can verify who owns what in real time, and no central entity, bank, or government can manipulate the system. Bitcoin restores accountability and it removes the middleman. It gives people full control of their money, even across borders. Much like Venice once thrived by building a trust-based monetary network without rulers. Bitcoin is building the next trustless network to restore freedom and privacy.